Hey guys, what's going on? Kellen with Droid Life. Today we're going to take a look at HTC Sense 4.0, which is on their new devices, including the HTC One X. So you may have heard, or we may have mentioned it, or maybe you don't know at all, but HTC Sense 4.0 is supposed to be a more toned down version of their skin that they've put on top of Android. Whether it is or not, that's sort of up for debate. Anyways, it's supposed to have like toned down animations, not so much ridiculous stuff flashy stuff that you don't need or have no use for. It's supposed to be lighter and run faster and smoother and just be less intrusive and less of a skin. But anyway, we'll walk through it. We'll let you guys decide. I have definitely some opinions on that, which I'll share throughout. But anyway, let's get into it. Show you guys Sense 4.0. All right, so as you can see, the first thing, and probably what HTC Sense has become most famous for now, is this lock screen, right? So you have your Ring, and you can just drop it, it'll unlock your phone. Okay, you can also, and there's different variations of these I'll show you in a second, you can also set app shortcuts. So if I want to jump straight to Foursquare, I can just grab it and drop it in there. If I let it go, it'll open that up. Like if I want to go to the camera, I just do that, opens the camera right up. So, there's other variations. Like I said, you can have one that shows the weather every time you unlock your phone. There's one that shows like pictures flying across. You can have social media updates from your friends. You can have missed call logs and things like that. You can do some different stuff with it, some of which I'm not a huge fan of. As you can see, I just went with the show me the wallpaper and the clock. So another cool thing though is, since it's ice cream sandwich, you can actually access the notification bar without having to unlock it, as long as you have this lock switch on there. So if you get an email, a text, anything like that, you can just go in there, press it right away and get into it. There's another phone I was using recently, can't think of it off the top of my head, but it actually blocked that. So hopefully that's not the standard going forward. But yeah, you can get right to the notification bar. Anyways, let's unlock this. So here we go, Sense 4.0. First of all, how crazy beautiful is this screen, right? Crazy, right? Okay, Sense 4.0, as you can see, it doesn't have that standard dock that Sense used to have where it had the big, there's a big phone button with a personalized button and then an app drawer button. Now it actually looks like an Android dock, an actual Android dock. It has a launcher button or an app drawer button, and then it has, you know, customizable apps you can put down here. And yes, these are customizable. You can drag and drop them, and you can make folders out of them, all that good stuff. So if I want to put Foursquare in this folder and then put this folder down here, I can do that. And then I can press that and it'll open up that folder. So it does have some standard ice cream sandwich functionality. You can see it just looks a little bit different than stock Android. And you know, HTC team has just put their own little flair on it. And it looks nice, you know, for the most part, this looks really nice. Obviously their famous clock, which you can press, you know, and get your weather. You can press the timer, and I believe it takes you to the alarm and clock settings. I thought I used to be able to do calendar as well, but not able to do that. So that's famous. Obviously, you know, HTC has their own version of widgets and things like that. We'll show you those in a second. Notification bar, you'll notice they removed the shortcuts to like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all those toggles. They also removed that most recently used apps thing that was up there. It was like a scrolly bar. Glad to see that's gone. I'm a little sad that the Wi-Fi toggles and stuff like that are gone. They used to be down here in a separate tab, but they've completely removed that. You actually have to go into settings and then update all that stuff from there. A little sad to see that go. But standard, you have 5 home screens, okay? I don't have much on these. Actually, I'm not using Sense anymore. We'll get to that in a minute too. But so there's not a lot on these. But if you want to add something to them, it's just like normal Android. You long press, and it pops up this new widget menu. And actually, you can't do this in Ice Cream Sandwich anymore. You have to go through the app drawer, which is a little frustrating. So I'm glad that HTC allows you to do that from the desktop. Up here, though, you can see I have home screens. And if I want to add, like, let's say this calculator, it shows me where I can and can't add these. So I can't add it to any of these because it takes up too much screen. So I have to go over to this one. I can drop it there. And it did a weird little animation, and it is there now, full screen calculator. If I want to erase that, long press, go up to remove, long press, and get me back to that menu. And you can scroll through these. There's HTC widgets, there's ice cream sandwich widgets, there's, you know, all of your widgets from apps you downloaded, things like that. You also have this shortcut to apps down here. So you can add app shortcuts easily just by grabbing and dragging. And then there's a shortcut menu. So if you want to do shortcuts to like directions, Foursquare, any app that has a shortcut option, Okay, so you can add those too. So this is the first thing I don't like about Sense 4.0, and everyone says it's faster and more polished and all that. Okay, so you have this thing down here, and all Sense versions have basically done this. So I don't know if you could see that, but I was over here in Shortcuts, I pressed widgets, and there was a slight delay, and then a jittery sort of transition to get over there. Because Tegra 3 quad-core processor, 12-core GPU, in a gig of RAM, there should be no stuttering or jittery or lag anywhere. I don't know if we can replicate that, but even in just their menus, and this is just a Sense thing that bugs me, whenever I press a button like this, there's just a slight delay while it thinks and then jumps over there. And it's a Sense thing. I'm sure they could get rid of that delay, but it drives me nuts. You can also do this drag along here, and it doesn't look really slow by any means once it sort of warms up, but it's definitely not the fastest thing on the planet. So that drives me nuts. Anyways, so this is a quick way to get to widgets, things like that. After we're done with widgets, let's just talk about the app drawer, okay? I don't know if you noticed that. Another thing that I would lead me to argue with anybody that Sense 4.0 is not that much faster than previous versions. I just pressed the app drawer. There it was fast, but I hadn't been in there in a while, right? And I pressed that, and there was actually a delay. Like Sense had to think about what it was gonna do and then open. In any other app drawer I've ever used, that just happens instantly. Not with Sense for whatever reason, okay? So that drives me nuts, all right? But once you get in the app drawer, it looks sort of stock-ish. It's landscaped, and you can just scroll through your apps. It's not infinite scroll, but only third-party launchers usually are. You can see it's got a little snap there. It's alphabetical. There's Play Store shortcuts, search shortcuts. You can search for apps if you have a bajillion apps. You can also sort it, share apps, manage apps, which will get you right into your ability to you know, uninstall apps, things like that. They have kept some of the ICS stuff in here. Like let's say I want to uninstall Dolphin really quick. The easiest way is just to grab it and go straight up to uninstall. Oops, cancel. And so that's the easiest way if you ever want to install something. Also down here you have frequent, so you have all frequent and then downloaded apps, which are quick sorts. And so just like that menu I showed you with the widgets, you press button, there's just a ever so slight delay in there that just drives me nuts. And there's also, you know, 3D animation in there, sort of jittery, sort of okay. Not a fan. That's a Sense thing. You either like it or you don't. I personally do not like. Just make it slide right to left. Okay. Anyways, so that's the app drawer and what they've done with that. Did want to show you, if we go into weather, this is another where this whole Sense thing is sort of taken over. In here, you will see 3D transitions and stuff like that, and they actually are really jittery in the weather app. I know it's sort of tough to see on camera. That's really not awesome. That's a little too slow for a quad-core processor and a gig of RAM. But anyways, other than that, let me jump into settings. And you can see here's your toggles. So the menu sort of, at least the layout of it, is similar to stock ice cream sandwich. Obviously it's whiter in color and they've changed the icons to match the overall Sense look. They've also added this weird, you know, in ice cream sandwich or gingerbread stock, if you go to the end of a menu and pull up, there's like a blue or an orange sort of tint. Well, what HTC has done is made it these all separate panels, and they just sort of stretch apart when you get to the bottom or the top of something. See that? It's just sort of an interesting way to do that rather than that color. It's all for flash. Anyways, so as you can see in here, they haven't really changed much, although like power instead of battery, display and gestures. They've rearranged the menu a little bit, but you know, who really cares? It's just the about screen, as long as you know where stuff is. The biggest thing in here is the personalized button though. And this is where you get into your skins. So just like other versions of HTC Sense, there are different skins you can choose from and that you can switch to on the fly. So those are always cool. There's actually a thing to get more up here through HTC Hub, but I don't believe they have actually added those yet. They might soon. You can also do scenes, which are like, you could set one up for work, one for social, one for weekends. So they've done that whole thing again. Wallpaper, this is where you switch your wallpaper. So this is another sort of issue I have. If we go home and I want to change my wallpaper, there's no easy way to do that. If I long press, there's actually no easy way to switch to wallpapers. So I actually have to go all the way in here, settings, personalize, and then hit wallpaper. Then it'll let me choose where I want to get my wallpaper from, and so on. So that's sort of slow. It's sort of slowed down what was once a really simple process. Here's also your lock screen options. So as you can see, I have the wallpaper one, but there is productivity, so you can keep track of notifications. There's your gallery photo album, social network status updates. So you've seen most of these before, right? They haven't really changed them. You can also see lock screen shortcuts. Those are your app shortcuts. Got those on there. And home screen. Actually, I haven't hit this button. I'm assuming it just takes me home. Oh, it just lets you add widgets. So that's something going on there. So anyway, you can see it's definitely still Sense. They've taken some stuff away that I actually liked. They've added stuff or kept stuff that I definitely dislike. But for the most part, I would say that it is lighter and it does run better than previous versions of Sense. You can see there's no longer that 3D flick. Remember, we used to be able to flick really hard and it would spin in a circle. And it was the most ridiculous and unproductive, and I don't know, it was the worst feature I've ever seen added to a skin. That's gone. Obviously, they got enough complaints about that. So that's gone. No more of that flash. You can see there still is a 3D animation or 3D page turn between there. You can see it's pretty smooth. There's a little bit of jitter, and that's just probably would happen on any version of Android. I don't know. But again, it seems sort of odd since it is, again, quad-core processor. One of the things that's really going to annoy you with this phone is the menu button. What I mean by that, so like, let me just go into, let me think of an app that would do it. I think Google Reader actually does it, which is not okay. So if I go into Google Reader, okay, you can see right here at the bottom, there's your menu button. All right, this is a Google app. They already have a menu button up here, but they haven't disabled this menu button. It's supposed to be an action bar button. Google developer team posted about this long ago. They told app developers to get rid of this menu button because it's going away in ice cream sandwich, to start using this action bar sort of menu button. And you can see, if you go into apps, this thing's on there. So actually, if we go into Dolphin browser, the new HD Dolphin browser, on every single page, doesn't matter where you are, oh, ESPN notification, that thing's there no matter where you are. So if I go to Facebook, it just stays down there. You can't get that to go away. So that's sort of frustrating, and that's up to app developers to get rid of that. For now though, we're just sort of stuck with an ugly menu button on a lot of apps. Actually, I had Widget Locker installed because I wanted to get away from the ring screen and get my own custom one. I couldn't because Widget Locker had a standard menu button down there. So anyway, another argument for another day. Another thing I wanted to look at and show you guys is there's no, okay, so first of all, there's no expandable storage with the One X, right? It's all internal storage. So what they've done, they still left some internal, which they're calling internal, they've separated out. You can see it's about 2 gigs. Then they've also done this phone storage space. And other phones could be doing this. I actually haven't looked in a while. But with only 2 gig, and obviously I would assume that Sense is probably taking up some of that, or maybe it's taking up phone storage. Tough to tell. As you can see, I've got 1.26 gigs in apps already. And so there's 875 megabytes available, which is not a lot. I've only had the phone for a couple weeks. So we're sort of back to that phone storage, SD card almost, internal storage thing that you basically have to start swapping apps. So if we go into our app management, you can see down here, internal storage, 1.3 gig, free, 837 megabytes used, right? And then you have your on-phone storage, which is a lot of apps, because a lot of apps just install to that now. But it's just one of those things it seems like you have to manage now. For some reason, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this doesn't exist anymore on the Nexus. Hold on. Storage. Yeah, I mean, it's just one single storage space. If we go into apps, we have downloaded, running, and then all. So I'm not sure why HTC had to separate that out if it's, again, a Sense thing. Anyways, it's sort of a little bothersome. At some point, I'm going to run out of app space because I'm so used to my Nexus and not having to toggle between phone storage, internal storage, things like that. So just another thing that they've done with Sense that's not awesome. All right, so last thing I want to look at then is camera, because the camera on this phone is actually really, really nice. And they've done a lot of different stuff with their software on here. So I don't have anything fun to take a picture of. Here's a Moto Active. Okay, so the camera on this thing is crazy fast. First of all, you can touch to focus. It'll focus. And it takes incredibly fast pictures. Okay, so there, snapped a picture, I'm ready to take another one. So it's just as fast, I would say, as the Galaxy Nexus, that instant sort of shutter speed. It's crazy fast. You also have an on-the-fly effect button up here, so you can change stuff easily. Okay, so you can do that really easily. They put that handy. They've also allowed you to, so you can record, and while you're recording, you can also still focus and take legit pictures while that's going on. So I'm taking pictures, and you can see they're showing up down there. Now I'm going to stop the record. But you can actually take real pictures while you're filming. So that's sort of a neat feature. They've also added just quick shortcuts to flash, since a lot of people toggle that quickly. There's a settings menu, and then down here is where you can get into different modes like HDR, panorama, stuff like that. So they've made all that stuff really accessible. You don't have to go through a whole bunch of settings to get to it, which is really nice. You can also do this thing, so say you have a moving target and you want to take lots of pictures really quickly. All you have to do is hold down the camera button and it just shoots picture after picture after picture. So watch this. Okay, so each one of those noises obviously was a picture. If I go into my gallery, oh, there we go. You can see them all down here. I just shot all these pictures in a row, and it lets you, oh, it actually asks you if you want to take the best shot, or you tell it to take the best shot. I actually really played with that a whole lot. Anyway, you can delete the ones you don't like, things like that. So it snaps crazy pictures really fast. It's one of the fastest cameras. So far I've had mixed results. Like, the camera is definitely better than the Galaxy Nexus camera. I don't know that it's the best smartphone camera ever made, but it does a pretty good job. The other thing I wanted to show you though is, if you are at the lock screen, you can get straight to your camera, focus, and take a picture, I mean, that quickly. So if you're on the go and you have your phone, you just snap a picture of something really quickly, you can do it like that. There's not many phones that are that fast. I think Sony has a dedicated camera button. Obviously the Windows phones do, and you press those, you can take a picture without even looking at anything. But as far as just sheer speed go and an actual really nice camera, this does a really good job of things like that. So other things in Sense, you know, those are really the big ones. I could show you, like, we could go into like Google Music, and you can see that Beats audio is everywhere now. So if we just play this song, you should see a Beats logo. Oh, you have to have headphones in. Apologies. Let me see if I got headphones handy. There we go. Headphones in, Beats audio on. So Beats comes on with anytime music's playing, doesn't matter what app you're in anymore. It's actually in the notifications. You can toggle that on and off if you want. A lot of people think it's just a bass boost. Some people think it actually does make a difference. I'll leave that up to you to decide. It sounds better with it on, but it could just be dumbing the music down until you turn that on anyways. So that's just a quick overview of Sense. Like I said, I'm sort of a fan of it. It's okay. Obviously I like stock Android. I'm actually switched to Nova Launcher just because there's been times when I've done some tasks and gone back home and the whole Sense launcher has to load. And it just shouldn't take that long for a phone this powerful to load. So, and it's not a processor thing, that's a Sense thing. It's definitely a software issue. So I'm using a custom launcher because Sense is not for me, but you might really like some of the features. And actually, Sense is built in enough throughout the OS that you can put a stock launcher or a different launcher on and still get benefits of Sense, like in the dialer and their contact management, which is actually one of the better systems. So other than that, oh, actually, I guess I could show you the browser. Okay, so the browser is, it's stock browser, but HTC sort of skinned it up a little bit. So you still have these quick controls if you want to use them. You can see those look exactly like ICS. But if you get to the tab switcher, this is where it changes. So I believe you can, no, there's no swiping involved. So you have a little X up top and you can exit those, hit new tab, get to bookmarks, things like that. So they've changed that up a little bit. So I can hit X and we'll load that right up. So the browser hasn't really changed all that much. Like I say, you still have quick controls, things like that. So the only other thing I guess I forgot to show you guys was my most recent task, the most recent task launcher, which is this menu button, or this button down here, right? So if I press that, this is changed in Sense. So in ICS, right, it lists them vertically, and you can just swipe them left or right to get rid of them. In Sense, that's not the case. They're like individual pages of apps, and you can still swipe them away, but they're not listed, like you can't see 4 or 5 at a time. You have to actually scroll over and find the app that you want to use. So it's a little weird. It looks really pretty. I'm not sure how functional it is. But if you want to get rid of something, you just swipe up and it goes away. So that's one of the other changes they've done in Sense. It's not a horrible change. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It sort of takes away from the quickness that the normal ICS launcher is. But anyways, again, this is Sense 4.0. It is definitely better than 3.0, 3.6, older versions, things like that. They've done some nice stuff. They've left it more Android than it was in the past. There was a time when I thought HTC was trying to make their phones not look like Android whatsoever or act like Android, and they just wanted them to be their own OS. Now it feels a lot more like stock Android, but with some added flair in good places and in bad places. Overall though, so far I do like the experience, but like I said again, I've switched off of the Sense launcher. It's just a little slower, and I also like to customize things. It's just part of my geekness when it comes to Android. Overall though, definitely enjoying it. We'll do a full review of the phone soon. This is just a quick Sense 4.0 preview. So we're Droid Life, we're out, peace.